job Mike White has done there with expectations of breaking through, making the NCAA tournament. They welcome in Florida tonight. Florida comes back. They're in position. And Blue Cane, he had ice water in his veins. And Asa Newell wouldn't let Georgia lose. And Silas Demery was big time. 88-83, Georgia beats Florida. Mike LaTulip. We thought that Georgia could break through this year. It's been up, it's been down. It's the SEC. Tonight, you get a home opportunity against the third-ranked team in the country, and the Bulldogs seized it. What impressed you the most?
I think just the mental toughness through it all. You could say that for both sides, the comeback for Florida as well as the ability for Georgia to, I mean, not many teams have been able to stop the Florida Avalanche once it happens, and they were able to do that and pull themselves out of it tonight. I thought, yeah, I know they lost by 12 against Auburn in the last game, but if you watch that game, it was much closer than the 12-point result would suggest. And I thought Auburn played with their food a little bit in that game, and I thought Georgia gained some confidence from it, going in to the jungle and being really competitive throughout. And that carried over into the beginning of this game. And if you're Georgia, you got it. This is probably one of the biggest exhales of the season, you would think, right? 55% from three. About even on the glass with Florida, a 26-point lead at one point. If you didn't get out of there with that win, that's about as demoralizing as it gets. But you did your work early. These guys stepped up. They made shots. They made Florida pay for virtually every defensive mistake that they made. You go under a screen, Denbury steps back, makes a shot. You close out short on Newell. He puts one in your eye. And then when they went to the press to try to slow things down, Florida still had to communicate out of it. And when they miscommunicated, you were right at the rim to finish. And so they were able to hold off a Florida team. I mean, Will Richard was unbelievable tonight, keeping Florida in that game. But this should be a major confidence booster once again for Georgia. And the way you got to finish out this SEC slate is just stay alive, man. Stay in the fight. And despite them letting go of that lead tonight, they were right there in at the end and threw the haymaker to end it.
You know, Tyler, before I get to you here, this is a Georgia team that now owns wins over Florida, Kentucky, and St. John's on a neutral floor. I mean, they're on the outside looking in when it comes to the bubble picture. At least starting the night, they certainly were. They were in that next four out column. But in the SEC, Tyler, if you could capitalize, when you get one of these heavyweights in and you look at the bubble picture, which the bubble's soft. I mean, this is a soft bubble. This is a bubble that shows the tournament really shouldn't expand. But you win a game like tonight, Tyler, and that could totally shift things. And Georgia, they found a way to get this done. Scored 88 points. You know, when you look at it from a metric standpoint, Florida had the seventh best defense in the country, according to Ken Pomeroy, and the Bulldogs scored 88 on them.
Yeah, and, you know, the beauty of playing the SEC is you're going to have your chance to build your resume any single night. And I really felt like Georgia has done a good job on their home court, like you talked about. I saw them get a big win against Kentucky there. And I watched the Auburn game. They almost beat Auburn on their home court, and they beat Oklahoma as well. You know, I really feel like this team can be explosive. I do think they're young. I like the Asa Newell kid. And Demery had an unbelievable night. But Florida, they let it slip defensively tonight. And I will say Georgia, they flirted a little bit with turning the ball over. I don't think they handled the press or the pressure that Florida put on them defensively late in the game. I think Florida also kind of bailed them out by trying to shoot the three ball and go for the home run play towards the end of the game. But, you know, you got to give Georgia their credit. This is a tough team. Florida's one of the best teams in the country. They have the ability to go on a deep tournament run. For Georgia to pull this one out at home should give them some confidence and maybe some momentum to build their resume a little bit more in the SEC.
Mike, the other side is Florida loses. And look, Florida is a team that we talk about in the national championship race. And we've talked about them right near the top of the country. It's one game. But if you had an overarching thought on what determines whether or not Florida makes it to San Antonio or what could hold them back, if anything, that comes to your mind, what is it?
I think the one thing that would come to my mind is they do have lapses sometimes to start games. We saw it at South Carolina. They've dug themselves in a hole on a few occasions this year. South Carolina, they're able to come back and win that game. Georgia obviously has a little bit more talent than South Carolina and makes it a little bit more difficult on you. But honestly, like, my opinion on Florida doesn't change too much after tonight. I think they still have as good a chance as anybody to cut down the nets in April. And part of that is because when I watch a game, and I get it, they dug themselves into that hole tonight. Georgia, I mean, give Georgia a lot of credit. Again, they stepped up and made shots. Some of which were contested in that first half. But there is a very, very small list of teams that could mount that type of comeback on the road. Very, very small. And I'm big on when I watch a team, and I'm sure, Fanta, Tyler, you can agree with me. There's just a certain feeling that a team gives you when you watch them. And that can sometimes play into how you feel about that team and how you forecast that team. And this Florida team got down 25-26, and I was really sitting there like, this isn't over. It didn't feel over. The pace that they play with, they're a possession team where they will get more possessions, whether it's getting them back on the offensive glass or just the overall pace that they play with. So I'm not concerned at all. This was a must-win game for Georgia. But yeah, I mean, I think, look, in when you look at SEC play in general, right? And Tyler, you touched on it. I think I see all the time. It's like, well, look, we've played all these top 25 teams in a row, and like, if you're an ACC team, you're begging for those type of opportunities. So Florida gets these night in, night out, and for the most part this year, they've passed those tests with flying colors. So again, like, my opinion on them doesn't change as being, a real title contender up there at the top with any of those big dogs.
I agree. I mean, I think, Tyler, what you said is true. When Florida contained Georgia defensively and they applied ball pressure and they were in them, and they still allowed 88 points in the game, but they had a stretch in this game where Georgia went silent and couldn't score and had a lot of trouble to close them out. And then, look, Georgia's at home. They're desperate. I mean, the desperate dog's going to win this time of year, Tyler. I'd like to get your reflection on it, because when you were at Carolina, you got everybody's best shot. But tell me, when you were playing a bubble team at this time of year, how much did that change how the game was played?
Yeah, Fancy, you're right. The hungry dog is the fastest dog. And, when you have an opportunity like this,
well, Tyler, team, I'm hungry, but I'm not fast. So I'm just telling you,
hey, I'm right there, man. I'm chasing you. I'm not that fast anymore. So I'll just say the one thing is, yeah, Georgia is building the resume. And, when I looked at their net ranking, they're not that far out of it. They are a bubble team. Their net ranking's 40. That will improve with this win over Florida. But, yes, they have the talent. The Asa Newell kid is an NBA player. He is a dynamic big. I've always liked him. Is he going to continue to have guys step up and give him a little bit of help? That's going to be a big question. And also, Georgia plays very well at home. They're going to have to figure it out how to take it on the road and get some wins if they actually want to make a little bit of a run, because – I do think maybe a resume helper would definitely would be to get some wins in the SEC tournament here in a couple weeks.